you know, you found them all to be medically approved, and some of our plaintiffs are exactly in this situation. They had to move for economic reasons. They got a hold of Health Canada. They couldn't find a place until after September 30th. Then Health Canada said, too bad. So they didn't bother to renew. So, you know, they're medically approved, or she's medically approved, he's her caregiver, but they didn't have a license on March 21. So they got to go get that, the narcotic control reg, but they can't produce because they're in a different place. So there has been no provision for people to just file a change of address for their production site. So we want to try and straighten that out on the appeal as well. So there's these technical things which should be relatively easy to come up with a thing where you can just file a change of address or these sorts of things in order that people continue until a further order of the court. We've just set a tentative schedule and we're asking the courts that we can have a trial next February for 3 weeks. And we're waiting to see if the court's got the time to schedule us in. The whole bunch of things we have to do between now and then, but that's the plan. The appeal, of course, will come on probably even quicker than that. All sorts of people say, oh, slow down, what are we in a rush for? Let's wait for Mr. Trudeau to get elected and pass the legalize. My view is that we need to move the appeal as fast as possible. We have a very strong case. We're in a very good position. And there are these other patients that we need to try and get covered under this injunction.
I'm gonna talk to closer for a second. I see other hands are in the air. Are these all about legal questions, or are they other questions for other issues? Because if there are, we'll take them.
This is legal and relevant to prescription and health care.
What I'd like to suggest, we're here till 9 o'clock, and it seems to me like John is really popular with respect to the legal side. So we have a time for you to have one-on-one conversations with them rather than putting it out to the audience or to have a smaller group conversation. What I'd really like to do now, though, is if there are people who have questions that are not focused on the legal side, but other issues that some of the other speakers have brought up, that we could bring it up, and then we'll wrap it up after that. And I just have a couple of really quick closing comments to thank people, and then we can have an informal conversation afterward. So there is one hand in the back there.
Hi, thanks. My name is Neil Magnuson. I'm a local activist. Kudos to the Liberal Party for your policy on drug reform here. Light years ahead of the other parties, long overdue, mind you. Like David said, there's a few concerns with the policy as written right now with regards to teenage use and what we do about that and impaired driving. But the real key is to be able to grow our own. And now we get the prices down, and now we're really balance the market. But my question is for Jody. Mark's on his way home in 3 months, thank God. And, you know, what do you guys think? Is he going to be a supporter of this Liberal Party platform and go across Canada talking about that? And also, Dana, you're an NDP member. Are you thinking of switching your vote to...
Oh, TMI and personal information.
Neil's doing the hard sell for us.
Thanks, Neil.
Well, Mark has always supported anyone who supports ending prohibition. I think everyone knows Mark and Jack Layton spent some time talking years ago about legalization, and Mark and I are very proud to support and endorse the Liberal Party as the next party to vote for in the election, not just because of marijuana legalization, but because of the environmental devastation and so many other anti-democratic moves this government has taken. So yeah, we'll be supporting the Liberals, not just for political revenge, but for the good of this country. I do want to add quickly that with respect to parties and joining up and all that sort of stuff, I know it can be a headache and to think, oh, I have to support everything they stand for. When it comes to politics and government, take anything you can get. Anything you can get. Oh my goodness. Some people, if I hear people complain about marijuana being an issue for getting people out to vote, why do the Liberals want to focus on marijuana? If young people would vote because of a dream to get to the moon one day, then whatever. You know, I say if there's some reason people will get involved in politics and vote, I don't care if it's marijuana or acorns or what. If people care, that's something, and we should celebrate it no matter what they care about. And besides, people who get involved in politics for the environment or for child care or for any sort of issue, you know, you don't razz on them just for having a specific issue of concern. But we know that having that one issue brings you into the party so you can help create change And that's what I hope to help do too, just by speaking and changing minds. Because Trudeau did support mandatory minimums. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen. Trudeau and the Liberals did support and vote for, or Trudeau at least, mandatory minimums in a different form. But he is a man who is willing to say, I'm going to get informed, I'm going to get educated, I'm willing to open my mind and change it according not just to public opinion, but to fact. And we need to celebrate that and encourage others to come on board. Come on, Harper, get educated.
In terms of myself, I've been an NDP member for a long time. I'm tempted to switch parties, and we'll see if that happens or not. But I will say that part of the Sensible BC organization effort is going to be to try to defeat Conservatives in British Columbia in the next federal election. We're going to be looking and endorsing candidates, probably mostly Liberals, but there's certainly some good NDPers in there as well, although our leader's not so supportive. We have people like Libby Davies, for instance, who has certainly earned her chops when it comes to marijuana and drug policy reform. And so, we'll be doing it, we'll be endorsing people on a riding-by-riding basis, and not so much about the leaders, but about individual candidates, where they have the best chance to get in. But I would certainly not be upset at all to see Justin Trudeau be our next Prime Minister. For myself, so far, I would say personally, I joined the NDP to make the NDP the best party with the best marijuana policy there could be. I'm still working on that. It's not a finished project by any means. So for now, I'm still there. But really, although I belong to a party, I'm not particularly partisan. I want to see the policy change and the government laws change. I don't really care who does it. I just want to make that happen. So that's where I stand on those things right now. And the NDP never invites me to speak at any of their panels.
Thank you. I think I'm going to wrap it up there because we only have the hall for a certain amount of time, and I do want people to be able to ask. And we have one more question. Everybody's nodding their head in the back. They want me to ask. Yes, in the very back there. Sir?
That's me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I have a query for the Liberal Party, and then I have a comment to make. Are the Liberal Party, is it still official policy to not tax it? It's just, I know when people party, sometimes they get hurt. And I think it needs to be taxed. I think we also need to consider if we're having medical tourism and having, well, for example, I can go to India if I'm not that fussy about the source and get a kidney for 30 grand. Heck, I can go to Venezuela or Uruguay and come back and instead of this thing, actually be handsome for 30 grand. Medical tourism is alive, it works. What we would do here, what I would propose, is a $3,000 a month tax for any medical tourist, since they're not paying into the infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. I've been thinking a long time on this. And so I'm really wondering also, if somebody comes here from the States, or even from the next province, wouldn't it be nice if we had a card which you could buy, which would give you, for $100, 5 years access to a right to carry 2 ounces? But first, I'd like a response to that.
Okay.
I'm still planning not to tax it.
I'll answer that. The current position, based on the convention that was held in 2012 in Ottawa, is that the Liberal Party supports the legalization, regulation, and taxation of marijuana. So I'm not going to go beyond that because, of course, we are not going to get that's it. But what I'd like to do now. Go ahead.
Is extremely crucial. When I phoned the health minister, the deputy health minister, the acting DG, and the PM, or the DM, depending on your attitude, the official DS was, that's between you and the police when somebody rips you off with your designated grower. By the way, Health Canada relicensed every one of the growers who ripped me off, and none of the growers I had did not rip me off. And this is a very common experience. Very common experience. In fact, Health Canada was shut down. You can't dial Health Canada's health minister or deputy health minister anymore because 85% of the calls were complaints about designated growers who And until we can access real police By the way, when I phoned the chief of police, 911, the community police, and even somebody who is a bishop in my church, who is a community